Okay, let me introduce you first to Stefan Schäfer from AFRI. Stefan is a digital expert who has worked in smart cities and mobility for more than 10 years in IBM, in Siemens Mobility, in the New Zealand government, and several startups. So he has a lot of expertise. He has expertise in EV charging, in autonomous driving, in mobility as a service, so almost everything. So very happy to have you here, Stefan, and hope you enjoy this time. Next, we have Rui from BASAP. Rui has more than 15 years experience in logistics, transportation, and business management. He started his career in logistics and business consulting, where he held several positions in top consulting companies. And then since 2015, Rui has been fully dedicated to his entrepreneurial career. He co-founded BASAP in 2016, and now BASAP has more than 100 clients and 4,000 daily commuters worldwide. So can't wait to hear more about you, Rui. And finally, we have Daniel from the EIT, from the European Institute of Technology. Daniel has several years of experience in urban mobility. From 2003 to 2015, he worked in the automotive industry for different OEMs. Then he worked as an executive project manager at Carnet, which is a research hub, and we also have a speaker from Carnet in this symposium. And since 2019, Daniel has been participating in setting up for the EIT Urban Mobility Hub, the Innovation Hub, the Urban Mobility Innovation Hub South. So he's the director of that. So yeah, happy to have you all here. Welcome, and then let's start. So we will now discuss about the impact of mobility in the society. So let me just jump in with the first question that comes to my mind. What do you think have been the changes in the last years in terms of how the people move around? So especially with COVID, have you seen any big changes in mobility, and do you think that they will last?
Definitely. So if I may start, there have definitely been very big changes during the last year. We have seen, well, first of all, people are not commuting as much as they used to. A lot of people working from home, obviously, not doing business trips, not doing holidays. There are more people using bikes. Biking has been a big trend, has become a big trend, especially e-bikes. They're sold out. Pop-up bike lanes have come to many cities. Also, there's a big growth in terms of electric mobility. Electric cars have gone through the roof. Here in Germany, for example, there was a growth between 250 and 350% of new electric cars on the roads. Public transport has gone down, and the sharing services have been flat or stagnating. That is my view in a nutshell. How do you see it, Daniel?
No, I think I think now the most popular use, I think the people use to travel is Zoom. You know, I think all of us, we are traveling across the world every day. You know, from our rooms. But I think the impact of COVID, especially in cities, I think it's that I think the public transport will be impact on the fact that the people is still fair to use the public transport, okay, and the levels of the use of private cars has been increased in some cities, still with semi-lockdowns, with the same levels that we had before. But the use of public transport is still around 60%, 40% in some cities. And if we want to, we have some challenge for the reduction of pollution in our cities, we need to increase this level. Okay. On the other hand, I think one of the very positive effects is that now the discussion of the use of public space for other uses like bike, walking, green spaces has been pushed by cities. Okay, and we will see big transformation in our cities. You know, this 15 minutes cities that it's provide. I think it's promoted by the city of Paris. Is something that other cities will copy. And the thing is that after COVID, we are aware that our surrounding is very important for our life, for our quality of life. Okay. And I think for me, these are the things that I will highlight. Really, what do you think about it?
Well, more or less, we are very much aligned. What we have find out in Bazar that because we live it on a daily basis, and we commute people every day to their job positions before COVID. And what we're seeing and what companies are trying to change or trying to adapt is that if we think before COVID, 70% on average, 70% of people that commute to work, they did that on their private cars on suburbs of major cities. Okay. Now we have what everybody's calling now, which is hybrid working. Now people work from home and then they work on their office. What happens is that if you have an hybrid work of 20-40%, that means that the demand, which is good, will decrease 20 to 40%, either in car, which is good, less cars, but also in our case, shuttles or public transport or bicycles or whatever. Okay, so in that case, technically, we will have a decrease on demand. On demand of installed assets that are not private cars, but also private cars. The thing is that before you go to work 5 days a week, now you go to work 3 days a week. But those 3 days, what we're seeing is that they don't have to be the same place. You can go to the office one day, and the other day you can go and meet somebody at WeWork on another office to make a co-work. And the other day you meet on a coffee to do like a brainstorm with a couple of partners, and you're still working. So the thing is that you change from one origin to one destination to one origin, multiple destinations, and random frequency. Means that you go Monday today, you go Wednesday next week. So what happens is that it's very difficult to predict demand. So to have any kind of installed assets running around waiting for people to come, it's proving not to be the future. So instead of having buses or cars or install assets waiting for you to arrive, we need to be able to create a more adaptable and flexible solution, mobility solution, in order to be sustainable. Because right now it's much more difficult to predict how people will move. And I think that one of the big changes is how can we readjust all our infrastructure, mobility infrastructure, to be more flexible.
I fully support. Yeah.
So do you think that the current transports we have can adapt to these changes, or do we need a completely different kind of transports for that?
I think the digitalization, the use of data, will be very important. But in this case, I think the administration need to change. They need to manage different modes of transport using data and to offer a good quality of service. Okay, this is what citizens needs. But at the end, they will be managing data that they will be not as they are today. That they are responsible, for the public transport or for the roads. It will be much more complex, and I think in this case, the role of administration will be completely different in the future. Yeah.
And we should also say that many of the trends that have been there before have now been accelerated. So the classical public transport, it was slightly growing, but it was now with new alternatives. People are turning their heads at, for example, car sharing, bike sharing services, micromobility in particular. And from one sense, these services have become part of the public transport landscape because public, in a sense, they are available to everyone. So what we see, the change, maybe a key change through COVID, is that people are moving a little bit away from collective transport, group transport, and rather want to go individual. But if we make sure from a regulation perspective, as Daniel says, that this is not going to bring people into cars, then it is definitely an option. If people really bike, if we support, create the right framework for micromobility. And so I think there's also a positive side on this. One other point that has been also been there before, and that's, I think, going a bit in Rui's direction, that is the flexibility of public transport that needs to be increased. So a fixed route and fixed schedule, as we had earlier with buses, that is not useful all the times. And then using, for example, digital technology, smartphones, and so AI algorithms to route the transport intelligently, that makes a lot of sense.
One of the things that, if you think about the old mobility, normally it was very geographically limited. So if you go to a town, you have those assets, those mobilities. Like if you have bikes, you have bikes. If you have like a mass platform, that's very modern. You have that local mass platform. What we're seeing is that when you become global, means that when you move around a lot and to different locations, you cannot be adapting to whatever local mobility you have. You need to have a more integrated, more global mobility to be more attractive to the user. So the way that the big change is that if suddenly the demand varies, like we have talked before, and it's more difficult to predict, what we think is that the current mobility operators, all kind, like bikes, e-bikes, buses, taxis, public transport, bus up, either we are able to collaborate in order to optimize the overall assets, or it will be very difficult to have sustainable mobility networks. Right now, everybody is very thrilled about mobility, so there's a lot of money coming in, but on the long run, it needs to be somehow sustainable at one point. So competitors, bus up competitors, public transport, bicycles, they all need to be somewhere integrated into a same place in order to collaborate and to be integrated, in order for somebody that gets into, I don't know, Barcelona, Switzerland, or whatever, and you get some sort of an app, and you have everything there independently, who's running it behind. Okay, and if you don't have that, it will be very difficult to optimize the operations, the assets, because you have like people spread all over. So there are too many actors right now running around, and we need to somehow put all that demand into the same place.
I think I think as a society, obviously, I think what we realize with the COVID is that the impact of having no mobility in our cities. That means that what Rui was explaining is that the level of complexity in the coming years for the mobility will be so high, and I think that especially the administration needs to prepare for that change and to try to organize this very complex system that we have today. Yeah, and we know more or less how to do it, but it's really complex. Some cities will do it, some cities not. But what we are seeing today is that if we want to face the problem of the climate change, we need to ban people to move in some ways. You know? And these days in France, we have seen how the government will ban the use of flights in distance where are covered by train. And these things will happen more and more, because if the behavioral chain of the society is not moving as fast, and also the administration is promote this behavioral change, the only way that we have is to stop mobility. And this is something that it's a contradiction, because we are in a society where we are looking for more freedom, but there's no way to face this problem of the climate change, especially in cities.
I agree.
You know?
I agree, and I also would emphasize the point that smart regulations are really essential here. That the governments need to create a level playing field and not leave it up to the market. It's not going to work if we have an disorganized system here. And so it's the case in many areas. For example, charging a fair price for usage of the road. It's one place where we could start. When you look at places like many cities in Europe, the parking fees are extremely low, and they make it very easy to own a car and put it in front of your house. If you compare that space, the real estate, to what you would pay for, really for living, it's incredibly cheap. So it's all about
great.
good
Thanks a lot.
regulations.
So,
please.
We have, we don't have a lot of more time, but I would just ask you, like, the last question. We've talked about the public sector, we've talked about the private sector. Do you have any ideas of how can we join all of this? So you've talked about the necessity of having a future where mobility integrates both public and private. Both the regulations in the road and public transit, and both also the society mindset and making solutions sustainable. How can we join that?
I'm going to launch an idea to answer that question. Imagine Netflix. Netflix, basically, you just pay a flat fee and you access any video on the platform. If we are able to create a flat fee for mobility, means that you pay 100, 200 euros a month, and you can ride in any mobility solution within a city or within a country, I don't care. It's the operators and the government responsibility and concern to make sure that on the backstage, we understand each other and who gets paid and who pays what and how we organize each other. But at the end, if we focus mobility on the user side, I mean, you just pay 200 euros for flat fee and you can ride metro, you can ride bus, you can ride line, you can ride taxis, public transport. So at the end, we need to reach to a point where we make it easy and very flat fee for the user. So basically what I'm trying to say is that public transport and private transport, or public operators and private operators, are doomed to understand each other as fast as possible, because I'm BuzzUp, I'm private, and I cannot leave without public transport because I need people to arrive to my stops.
Mm. I think
it's a nice theory. Yeah. I would agree with it's a nice concept, Rui, and we need to realize though that it goes to the heart of business models in mobility, and so what needs to be worked out is how can you deal with the fact that all the areas need to be covered, not just the, for example, the juicy pieces that are interesting that are most profitable. And then the diversity that we have in the landscape of, a lot of services being subsidized today. The public transport, obviously, is a subsidized business. And now how can we bring this together with for-profit organizations? It's a complex problem, but I agree the vision is certainly right that you were painting.
I also agree on the vision. The thing is that compared with Netflix is that the scalability of Netflix is very easy. At the end you have a TV or a computer and a user, and the user more or less consume the same content. In the mobility is completely different because each city is completely different playground. And the role of the administration is to define the rules for the playground. That's true because we cannot afford that Uber is taking all the business, and having not the good salaries for the employees and all these things, There should be rules and there should be regulation, but there should be also freedom to compete and to others that the private sector could compete in the right way. And this is not happening today. There's a barrier, the public administration is trying to take control of the main transport system on the cities. If we see what you say before, this is mobility as a service, and we see that this is already working in some ASEAN cities, and Japan, Korea. This is working quite well. The reason is that the collaboration between the public and private sector is high, and we need to speed up this collaboration. This is key for the transformation that we are looking, but I think the public administration, they need to change the way they work with the private sector.
Great. Thanks a lot, everyone, for your answers. Thanks a lot, Stefan, Rui, and Daniel. That was a great fireside. Now we should move on because we are a little bit late. So, guys, I see there's a lot of questions and a lot of comments. Please save them. We won't be answering questions now, but we will be answering them in the breakout session, where you will be able to find, again, these amazing speakers, and you will be able to ask all these questions and have a more informal conversation. So save the questions, please. So now we will do actually 3 to 4 minutes bio break. So it's 10:22. So I'll see you back at 10:25. Everyone, so I will now end this session, and I will meet you guys in the next fireside on impact on environment. Sounds good? So 10:25, please.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.